Adventure Ministries, Voice of Jerusalem, has planted trees in Jerusalem since 1975. These trees continue to grow among the trees we are still planting today. Be a part of fulfilling biblical prophecy by planting a tree in Israel in memory of your loved one for just $25. A beautiful certificate will be mailed to you from the Holy Land. Call 1-800-517-HOPE. That's 1-800-517-4673. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. The Wailing Wall is reported to be the closest place to the heart of God. The Ark of the Covenant was here. For hundreds of years, people have prayed and written their prayer request on papers they have inserted into the wall. If you have a prayer request, Adventure Ministries, Voice of Jerusalem, has people in Israel standing by to take your urgent needs to the Wailing Wall. A postcard will be mailed to you from Jerusalem. You can call 1-800-517-HOPE.
Hi, this is Jackie Yaki again, and today we're going to continue our segment. Now, Glenn Brown is a very, very busy man. He came over, so we started a subject about how he met his beautiful wife, Patty, and he had to leave. So Patty and I are going to discuss some of the things that happened in this marriage. And it was real funny. He was the groom in a wedding. She walked into the church. They were performing a wedding. The bride still hadn't walked down the aisle. And she had thoughts at times about Glenn. I wouldn't say that she was highly attracted, but she was disappointed to find out after all this that Glenn was being married. When they ended it, and she found out that they were doing an illustrated sermon about the marriage of the supper, of the Lamb, of Jesus' return, and how we're going to join Jesus. Well, Patty and Glenn have 2 children. They have Joshua and they have Hannah, and they're serving the Lord. But Patty, let's continue on. How are you?
I'm doing great. Awesome.
You did great last time. I was so glad to hear.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Glenn was the star tennis player and a real good man, a good boy, because he's in college. And one day, he knows he's going to play, I guess, for the championship. And he's talking to his friend about it. His friend Reggie, or was
Rex.
it Rex?
It was Rex.
Rex. And Rex, when they arrived, he finds out he's going to play Rex. Do you think he was disappointed that he lost?
I'm sure he was disappointed that he lost, because when Glenn plays, he plays to win.
Now, he doesn't look as if he has a competitive bone in his body.
He does.
But he does. And he became the coach.
Yes.
And anyway, he's going over. He thought, I'm going to go over to the bar. Good Catholic guy, going to the bar, meet some of the boys, have a beer or two, and there
was Rex.
There
and
was
Rex.
Rex.
And
Good
Rex
old
handed
Rex.
Rex handed him a tract.
A tract.
A tract to read, yes.
And Glenn said, I'll read it.
He sure did. If anybody else would have handed it to him, he would have tossed it.
Another thing isn't, I have to bring this point out. Patty, don't you think it's wonderful that Jesus will meet you in a bar.
Yes.
I mean, he was always out with publicans and sinners. Not that I'm not saying people in a bar, I don't know, that's all in God's hand. But he was changed. He thought, he went to church all the time, did all those things.
Right.
You know, you always have to be so good. You can, if you sin, every time you do something, the church I was raised in, you were going to hell.
Right.
I mean, we couldn't even go see a movie. Oh, no, some didn't wear lipstick.
Right.
It was terrifying because you had to be so good. And I was so bad, according to the church standards.
Right.
So, I think it's a good point to bring out that once you give your life to Jesus, he did it all. We can quit working. He will
takes you where
direct
you
us. Do you think he speaks to us today, Patty?
Yes, it does. He speaks to you where you are.
Tell me, you had a moment.
Yes.
We talked about it in the last segment.
Yes.
About your husband. What was it?
Yes. When I was young, he told me that I was going to marry a youth pastor and that he would have black curly hair. And when I got a little older, then I met Glenn. And at first I didn't even realize it. I didn't know that when I first met him, I kind of pushed it off and didn't pay attention. And then when we got together and we're out one night, I looked at him and I was like, oh my Lord, he really does. He has black curly hair and he's a youth pastor. And it kind of scared me because then I realized, okay, this is what the Lord spoke to me.
So here you are, and the man, you think he's getting married, but it was a mock wedding. God had spoken to you. I would be rather shocked to sit there and think, oh, he is dark-haired.
At the time, I didn't realize that was the one that God had for me. But after the mock wedding, he came back and he asked me out. We went out.
That night?
No, we didn't go out that night. That
Not in his tuxedo?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
he looked very nice in that tuxedo.
Yeah, I bet.
Yes, he did. He was
But
in
it
a
shows
nice
some
one.
pictures.
Yes. And then we went out on February the 20th. And then we were married on August the 3rd. So it was a very short engagement. And God just moved it right along.
All these years.
Yes.
You know, when God speaks to you, you just know.
You know.
And so you lived happily ever after. Never had a problem.
Oh.
And then we had little Joshua.
We had Hannah first.
Hannah first, then
Joshua.
Tell me about Joshua.
Joshua, when he was 2 months, we were out at a service, and it was Brother Morocco's service at the church, and Joshua started staring and had this really strange stare, and I knew something was wrong with Joshua. Joshua wouldn't nurse, wouldn't eat, and I knew in my spirit something was wrong. And so we left the service, and so then I called the doctor and I said, something's wrong. So the doctor kind of blew me off, and I kept saying, but something's wrong. So I called the next day and told him again. He's still doing this. All of a sudden he would just take off and he would stare, and then he would just scream. And so my mom called the doctor and she said, look, she's not a new mother. That's what they told me, is you're a new mother. You don't know what's going on. My mom called them. She said, look, she's not a new mother. She's got one other child. She knows something's wrong. So they said, come to the doctor. So we went to the doctor, and as soon as they saw Joshua, they said, go to the emergency room. He's having seizures.
My word.
He's 2 months old. So we went.
But he didn't have any,
No other anything.
Symptom, yeah.
No. It was just all of a sudden he would
a blank stare.
Blank stare, and he would scream bloody murder, and he would not nurse. So we got down to Kosare. Kozera's doing all the MRIs, everything. And so then they started questioning Glenn and I, and to see if we had abused him. Well, so then they would go from one to the other. And so they did this the whole time. And so while they were doing the MRI, all of a sudden I felt Glenn was standing probably about as far away from we are right now.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I felt this hand on the back of my back. And I looked at Glenn and I'm like, did you just touch me? And I knew he didn't. And I said, everything's going to be okay. I know God's got it under control. And he said, okay. I said, I don't care what they tell us. It's okay. And so they came back from the MRI and they said that there was a blood vessel that was right here on the back of his neck that had not formed. And so the doctor said that it had caused 3 strokes and they don't even know how many seizures. And he said he will not use his left side. He will not see out of his left eye, and he will not be mobile. And I looked at the doctor then, and you know how the devil gives you this, it's this scary feeling that overtakes your body.
Yes, I do.
As a mother especially, you're thinking, oh my God,
baby.
This is my baby. And I looked at the doctor, and I didn't snap back at him, but I just looked at him very seriously, and I said, I understand what you're saying, but my God is bigger. Joshua will be healed. And the doctor just kind of looked at me like I was crazy.
Yes.
So that was on a Tuesday. That Tuesday night, the nurse was walking around the side of his bed. He was in ICU. And the nurse said, look at this baby. He's looking at me out of his left eye. He's following me. And I said, yes, he is. By Friday night or Friday morning, they sent us home from ICU. And they said, we don't send people home from ICU. We send them to transitional care and on down to a regular room. We do not send them home. But they said, there's nothing wrong with this baby.
The blood vessel, everything
turned, they said, that blood vessel had not been formed, which they just left it at that. They said it had not been formed. But he was doing everything normal. And so I'm like, they said there's nothing wrong with this baby. So they left him on the phenobarbital for a little while. And we went back to the doctor, and the doctor said, take him off of this. He said, this baby's healed. There's nothing wrong with this baby. Joshua is left-handed. He is greater than 20/20 in his left eye. He plays the bass left-handed. He writes left-handed. Joshua is perfectly healed. He's perfectly whole. I had teachers try to tell me to take him and, teach him to do things right-handed. I said, no. I said, that is God's miracle.
Yes.
Because Joshua is healed. He is a miracle walking. I said, God is our healer.
Oh, that must have been a wonderful moment. It reminds me of the song you said you felt the hand. Mm-hmm. You ever heard that song?
No.
He touched me.
He touched me, yes, ma'am.
Oh, the joy. Yes, I love that.
Yes.
So now, Patty, you get through this, and something happens to you. I don't know what it is, because we're going to talk about it.
Okay. Yes.
What happened to you? Your baby's healed. The life is good. You've got Mr. Prince Charming.
Yes. Well, when I had Joshua, the epidural that I had wasn't exactly right, and we knew something was wrong with that. And I'd had some pain in my back that had been going on for several years. And when Joshua was about 6 or 7, they started giving me some pain meds for my back, and because it was a lot of pain. And so every time I would move, I would have these pains. Well, I made a turn one day in the basement. And when I made that turn, I couldn't move. I was stuck. And so
You were by yourself?
I was in the basement by myself. They were all upstairs, and we lived in a 2-story house. And I hollered for Glenn, and he was on the top floor. And so I was down there for about 30 minutes until he finally heard me. So he came downstairs. And he had to help me to the couch to even sit down. And there was a nerve or something that had stuck in my back, or they don't even know. So They did x-rays, they did all kinds of stuff, and so they couldn't figure out what it was. So they kept doing MRIs, CAT scans, and they couldn't figure out what was causing it. So then they started just giving me shots in my back. And so they did the epidurals. Couldn't figure out that it wouldn't work. They did those for a while. I had fell before that, and I had broke my coccyx. And I had actually fell like 4 times and broke my coccyx 4 times. So they were giving me shots for that too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I had all of this pain. And so they would up my pain meds. So they started me out on Loratabs. That didn't work. They did that for about 3 years. Went to Vicodin. We did that for 7 years. And it wasn't you took it when it was needed. Then we went to Opana, which is very strong medicine. Then they switched me to morphine, which was rough. And all this time they were giving me muscle relaxers too. I mean, this went on for years. I mean, about almost 20 years. It was about 14 times everything had transpired, but 20 years when it first originally started with the epidural. And so that was, then we went to the morphine. Then they switched me to fentanyl, which is a patch, which is the strongest pain med you can get. I thought, Lord, I can't go through this any longer. You've got to do something. It's affecting my family.
Taking all this medication, Patty, were you really in a lot of pain?
Yes, it did not work. The pain meds didn't work. It didn't matter what they did. I mean, they would try every different thing. Then they put me on the patch. That didn't work. So then they added Dilaudid on top of that. So I could tell you probably 7 years, I didn't even know my name. My kids would do things like just to bug me or to find out if I even knew what I was talking about, if I was alert enough to even know they were talking to me. They would come up and they would say, Mom, here they are, 12, 13 years old. Mom, can I go drive the car? To see if I knew that they were talking to me. If I answered yes, then they knew I wasn't alert. They've got pictures of me that I was sitting at, like one Christmas. It was when I finally agreed to go to a different doctor that wasn't drugging me so much.
Yeah.
I mean, because he was drugging me so much that I did not know my name. When I agreed to go to a different one, they've got pictures of me that we went out to eat on Christmas Eve. And I didn't even know they had brought my food to me. And I looked down and I said, where's my potato? And they were like, you already ate it. But they've got pictures of me to where I looked like I was a drug addict. And when I saw that picture, I was like, why do you have this picture? Why do I look like that? I don't remember looking like that. And I thought, I don't want to be like that. And so then we switched doctors. And by the grace of God, I went to a doctor that was a Christian. And that's when he switched me to the patch, and got me lowered on all of the medicine. And then I kept going to church. All this time I was going to church and asking somebody to pray, please pray for me, please pray. And I was begging. And it wasn't that I didn't believe God was going to heal me.
Right.
Because I knew he would. And it was, for some reason.
This is a long time. Has this gone on how many years?
Yeah.
8?
Well, it started, the first pain started when I had the epidural.
Yeah.
When Joshua was born. But then it kept going. And, Josh was 21 now. So I got healed 2 years ago.
Oh,
so
that must have been a glorious state. What did they diagnose you with?
Right. I had Fawcett disease. I had degenerative disc. I had nerve damage. They said I had fibromyalgia. And the damage was here in my lower spine, all the way up to about fairly far up. And then my neck had damage too, because from where the issues were in my spine, I had fell so many times. Also, I'd broken my tailbone that many times, which the 4 times, which they had talked about removing the tailbone, which is, you end up having to lay on your stomach for 3 months in order for it to heal, which is horrible. And so I thought, God, you've got to do something. You know.
But you had done this everybody. I know Evangel. Anybody that you can, you get them to pray.
Like, please pray, please pray. I was like the woman with the issue of blood. I'm like, you're going to every doctor. We'd spend all our money. And actually we'd spent so much that actually we lost our home. Because we had spent everything that we had, and I had to quit work. So we lost our home through this. And so I thought, God, this is just not what you want. And so we had to move into an apartment. And so I thought, this is not what you want. I don't understand why we're going through this. I really don't. And I thought, okay. But I didn't complain. Through this whole time, I thought, I'm not complaining. I'm not giving up, because you are my healer. You healed me 2,000 years ago. And if you healed me 2,000 years ago, you healed me now. And I'm going to stand on that. No matter what, I'm going to stand on it.
That's hard to believe after waiting all these years. I mean, you really...
It's very hard to do. It is. You know, I've had this song that I played almost every single night, and it's I'll Praise You Through the Storm. It's by Casting Crowns. And I would go in there and I would play it. I would put it on and I would play it all night long, and I couldn't sleep. Glenn couldn't sleep in the room with me. He couldn't sleep in the bed with me. If Glenn would even touch my hair, I would cry. If he would just put his hand up like this and just barely, I would cry because I was in so much pain. My kids couldn't hug me. There was so much pain. So they had all of these things that they would try to do. I mean, I would go from doctor to doctor, say, hey, can you please help me? You know, and I went through disability, trying to get the disability, and from where I should have been able to get the disability.
You should.
And it fell through. And I thought, God, I don't understand. And I filed for it 3 times myself. Then I went and got a lawyer, and the lawyer looked at all of my stuff, and he said, you'll get it. There's no way you'll get this. So we went with him, and he said, you'll get it, no problem. So I went before the judge, and we sat there, and I couldn't hardly even sit there because I was in so much pain. And what happened is he said, they said, you're denied. And I thought, God, I don't understand. And the guy another guy that was there got it. And he was running around like he had no problems, no pain. And I thought, God, I don't understand. How can somebody that has no pain get it? But I can't. But I know why. It's because God was planning on healing me, and I didn't need it.
So something, and I know this man because he prayed for my sister-in-law. I took her to our church, and she's like one of those good people we've talked about. And everything. Right. But she had cancer. And he called, and she was healed at our church, Evangel. Yes. So what happened?
I went to a healing service at Evangel on Miners Lane. Pastor David said, we're going to have healing services on Friday night. And so I was on the praise team, and so I went. So the first week I went, and so he prayed for me, and I started noticing a difference. And I thought, okay, so I went back the next week. And he was praying for other people and doing his own thing. And so I looked at my husband. He's over there helping with them pray. And I looked at him and I said, I'm healed. I just knew, I could feel it. I was healed. And the Pastor Dave turned around to me and he said, Patty, God's healing you. And I said, I know he is. I'm healed.
Oh, that must have been a shock to everybody. I mean, really, you can say, I believe it, but I mean, that's a long time to wait. You got to admit it.
Yeah, it was a very long time to wait.
Were you shocked, or was
it just like before I've had so many people pray for me, you feel a little different, you feel a little better, but this was, I'm healed. I could move my head, I could bend over. I was like, hey, I can move my hips.
No pain?
No pain. And it was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. I am healed.
No pain, no pills.
No. And so I went to the doctor and I said, I want to wean off of this medicine. It took them 1 year to wean me off of all of that pain meds. And so I have been off for a year now.
Well,
And
I just
so
would like
happy.
to praise God for you.
Yes.
And one more, we got to run, but one more last question. Your dear husband all these years.
Yes.
I mean, you can't stand for him to even touch you or anything. I bet now he is a happy man.
Yes.
Our
Yes.
wonderful Glenn.
Yes, he's so happy. We go out and we do things together. He just had a birthday. He wanted to go kickboxing. We went kickboxing. He wanted to go. We went and played tennis. The last 2 days we went and played tennis.
You were a tennis player too.
Yeah. So we get to go do things together.
Yes.
And so it's so fun.
It's
And
just like a honeymoon.
He's like, I got a new wife.
Got a new wife. Oh, I could just go on forever. I love talking to Patty, but I have to end the show. Don't blame me. The time clock is going. I wish I hadn't talked so much in the beginning. This is fabulous. Joshua healed of epilepsy.
Seizures
Seizures.
and a stroke.
Right, sorry. Seizures.
And a stroke.
And Patty, when he had stroke.
Yeah.
And Patty, here
Yes.
she is. That was a long wait.
Yes.
I think what God is saying here
He's
is
our
don't
healer.
give up. Like my mama always said, if God puts you on hold, don't hang up. That's good,
That's
isn't
right.
it?
Amen. Amen.
God bless you. I can just see Patty and Glenn. They're going to go to Israel, I'm sure. I don't know when, but I thank God for you, Patty. I'm so glad you came here. I'm encouraged. And thank all of you for joining us today. And don't forget, pray for what? The peace of Jerusalem.
The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. The Wailing Wall is reported to be the closest place to the heart of God. The Ark of the Covenant was here. For hundreds of years, people have prayed and written their prayer request on papers they have inserted into the wall. If you have a prayer request, High Adventure Ministries, Voice of Jerusalem, has people in Israel standing by to take your urgent needs to the Wailing Wall. A postcard will be mailed to you from Jerusalem. You can call 1-800-517-HOPE. High Adventure Ministries, Voice of Jerusalem, has planted trees in Jerusalem since 1975. These trees continue to grow among the trees we are still planting today. Be a part of fulfilling biblical prophecy by planting a tree in Israel in memory of your loved one for just $25. A beautiful certificate will be mailed to you from the Holy Land. Call 1-800-517-HOPE. That's 1-800-517-4673.